Hello, guys. Today we're here at the AMP, Abnormal Media Podcast. I'm really excited. I have Mr. Wayne Walker. Mr. Wayne Walker, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Wayne Walker. My company is Reflective Mind Hypnosis.
So, Mr. Wayne Walker, he's a transformative speaker, trainer, certified hypnotherapist. You have a background in martial arts, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Military service. Thank you for your service as well, sir.
You're appreciative.
And I was reading on your website that you have changed your life. You have lost around 80 pounds with the carnivore diet.
That is correct.
So we're gonna be talking a little bit about a multitude of things from using a carnivore diet for weight loss, stress management. Well, that the stress management is more related to the hypnosis,
Right.
hypnosis side.
Yes.
And but we're gonna go ahead and talk about those things. So can you please tell us a little bit more as far as about yourself? Who is Mr. Wayne Walker?
I can. I'm originally from the great state of Texas. I was born in Dallas, raised outside of Dallas, and graduated high school there. I lived on a ranch of sorts. My granddad trained cutting horses, and after high school, I went in the military, and ended up in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I was there for 2 years, and then got out, and then moved to California, and I was in California for 20 some odd years, and it's pretty much about the synopsis of where I came from.
And who introduced you into carnivore?
Well, who introduced me? I don't think anybody introduced me. I think my wife demanded it. I had over the years, I was an athlete. I was a kickboxer, I was a boxer, and I had always been in shape. And then life got a hold of me, and working in that, and started gaining weight and eating, and and I'd always gone to the gym and that type of thing. But about, I'm going to say 6 years ago, things started getting way out of hand, and it was, some of it I ignored, and then it got to the point where I was over about 330 pounds, and it got to the point to where my knees were hurting. I had a knee replacement in my left knee. Wasn't feeling well. My blood pressure was starting to go up. Pre-diabetic. I mean, just all sorts of things that was going on. And I kind of got into a panic state. So I was at the VA, and I was talking to my general practitioner, my doctor, and I said, look, I got to do something, because we had started watching what we were eating, and we were eating what we thought was healthy. Okay, we didn't go out to fast foods. We didn't have a lot of sodas or that. We did have the cake sometimes, but it wasn't really something that was on our menu. And it wasn't working. It wasn't doing anything.
At that point, you felt perhaps confused with the fact that you thought you were doing everything the proper way, or what were your thoughts? Because I mean, by the way you're describing it to me, you knew what you were eating, and but you were still not like seeing results, or I mean, it was obvious, right?
Oh yeah, it was obvious. I mean, it was still, the diet was still full of carbs, potatoes and breads and that type of thing. But we weren't going what I thought was overboard with it, and it just wasn't. I just wasn't losing the weight. So I talked to the general practitioner, and he suggested that I get involved with what they call the MOVE program at the VA. And it's to teach people how to eat and all that. And it's just the same stuff they regurgitated, the food pyramid, that type of thing. And it was not working. So I talked to him. I brought up the fact. I said, maybe I need to look at this gastric bypass thing and get this under control. And he goes, well, it's a surgery. We can look at it. They won't require certain things, that type of thing. And then the whole thing with the Ozempic came out, and that whole thing. So I approached him about that. And with the VA, you have to jump through certain hoops. They want to see certain things and time and all that. And it just kept dragging on and dragging on and dragging on. So the second week in September, and my wife had mentioned the carnivore diet a couple of times, and I just kind of like, it went in one ear and out the other, and because we had done the what's that other the
The keto.
keto. Yeah,
Keto,
we did the
okay.
keto. We did that. I had limited success with that, but there were too many. There were too many loopholes in it. You know, you go to the grocery store now and they've got an aisle of keto stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, well, I'll just eat that, and it's the same crap, same stuff.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, like you mentioned, right now, if you were to go to the store, you'll see keto this, keto that, and then you read the label, and that's also like really important for you to actually know how to read your labels because they're not keto. I mean, there might be if you only eat one piece,
Right.
but if you read the whole thing, they break it down to where you have 50 servings. So
Yeah.
like you have to be really careful with those.
Very careful, because once you open the package, it's not like you can close it back up. I mean, it's, you know, it's open. So, so the second week in September, my wife said, "Look, we're going to do carnivore because we had, you know, we have our own beef in the freezer. We processed our own cow. So we had a freezer full of beef. We had a freezer full of pork." And I said, "Well, fine." So we started on the carnivore. And literally it was, I think it may have been a Monday or something. It was one day. And then we just ate. And then the first 2 weeks, I lost 15 pounds. And now most of it was water weight because it, you know, and I started thinking, and I went down that rabbit hole and started watching videos of the different doctors, Dr. Berry, Dr. Baker, all of the guys
Sean
you hear
Baker.
about. And I started listening and learning, and it made sense. And as we went on, I kept losing weight. So between the second week in September until about February 19th, 20th, something like that, I had dropped 80 pounds in that time period. And that's with no exercise. That was just eating meat. Okay? That's all it was. So it was just absolutely amazing. Now, as a hypnotist, I have clients that I work with, and I work with people for all sorts of things. It could be anxiety and depression and confidence and sleep and panic attacks and stop smoking. And one of the things that I help people with was to lose weight. The challenge with that is that hypnosis in of itself will not cause you to lose weight. You will not lose weight with hypnosis by itself. You have to have a plan that you come with. And what hypnosis does help with is if a person has sugar addictions or carbohydrate addictions, or they have issues of overeating or eating after midnight snacking, hypnosis is very effective with those things because you're retraining the subconscious mind because you have to change your subconscious mind and the relationship that you have with food. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to have a sustainable plan. And most people that I helped or that would come to me for help for losing weight, they would say, "I'm doing the Mediterranean diet. I'm doing this diet. And I'm doing that diet." And that's great. And any diet will work as long as you stay on it. But it's not sustainable. And I call it the loopholes. There's too many loopholes in these things. So where you can go and you can lose the weight that you want, a little bit of weight or whatever, and then all of a sudden go, I can taste that. It's not going to bug me. It's not going to hurt me. And the next thing you know, instead of a taste, it's a serving. And instead of a serving, it's 2 servings. And then you're back to the same thing. And it's all because you haven't changed the subconscious mind and how it relates to food.
Yes, and that makes total sense. I mean, what you're mentioning right now, and it's also really how can I position this? I like the fact that you're acknowledging that all those other diets work, because what I've seen is like people on that realm or that they're on those diets, they really don't want to admit, or they really don't want to even look at this diet, or they don't even want to give it a chance. Why? I'm unsure. It's not like if you're from that team, I'm from this team. At the end of the day, it's just like we're all on the same boat, right?
Well, we're all wanting this. We want to accomplish the same thing. We want to get healthy. We want to lose weight. You go to doctors to get medical advice, and what they do is they give you pills. They don't give you the proper information. Now, here's what I've done with my program when I work with people to lose weight now, and it's very simple. If you come to me and you say, "Hey, I want to lose weight and I want to get healthy," you have to agree to go on the carnivore diet, because if you don't, then I'm not going to work with you. And the reason I'm not going to work with you is because whatever that is that you're doing or want to do, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're going to fall off of it. You're going to regain the weight back and then some, and you're poisoning your body. And I'm not doing that with people. You're going to give me 30 days, stay on the carnivore diet, and then you can see in that 30 days the results that you're going to get. Now, anybody can do anything for 30 days. You can do anything, okay? But by the time that 30 days is over, and by the time I get through going through what I need to go through with that person in terms of hypnosis, by the time they're to that point, they're going like, this is the way I'm going to eat for the rest of my life. Because think about it. The carbohydrates that we eat and we consume in this country are nothing more than chemicals. They're not food, they're chemicals. And if you understand that the carnivore diet is an animal-based diet, which is the way that we're supposed to eat, and it's providing all the nutrients that you need. You don't need to take supplements. You don't need to do all that. The meat that you're eating, as well as the eggs and some hard cheeses, maybe if you're not sensitive to dairy, that's all you need. And if you understand that, you can drive down the road today, and all the restaurants that you see, 95% of them shouldn't exist because they're serving fake food. They're contributing to this whole issue, and it's not the people's fault. It's not anybody's fault it's the companies that have developed that food that has scientifically modified whatever it is to cause you. Because you open up a bag of Oreos, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not going to be any Oreos tomorrow for anybody else, because you're going to eat the whole package. It's just the way that it is.
Just like you mentioned, I mean, it's addiction. At the end of the day, it's just.
And they cause the addiction. They cause the addiction, and that is truly an addiction. That's why when I work with people, I deal with the sugar addictions, the carbohydrate addiction, because those are truly addictions. Because you can wake up in the middle of the night to go to that little boy's room, little girl's room. And if you're addicted to carbohydrates or cookies, the first thing you may think about is, you know what, there's a cookie on the counter in there. Let me go to the bathroom and I'm going to go get the cookie. Okay? That is a true addiction.
Now, how do you feel about the fact that I'm not sure if we're still ranked number one in obesity in the whole U.S., but McAllen, at least the city of McAllen was at one point. I'm not sure as far as the rankings currently for 2024, but would you mentioned right now that it's not really people's fault, because that's pretty much all we have seen from like the books, studies, the pyramid, the food pyramid, what they're providing in school and whatnot. So what are your thoughts? What is a good way of fighting that, or what can we do to change that? Because right now, of course, you're spreading the word. That's one way of doing it. You're actually advocating. You're doing what you're, in a way, teaching, right? But what can we do to help others?
You know what? It's the thing is the only person that can help anybody is yourself. You have to help yourself. You have to become your own advocate. And I've come to the conclusion, you can inspire people, but the motivation has to come from within. You have to have that motivation. And many times, and I tell people, what you need to do is become militant in what you're doing. And you have to be singularly focused on that and get away from all the peripheral stuff. It's like guys and girls, they want to go to the gym and they become singularly focused in the gym. They're there in the morning, they're there in the afternoon. They are just one-track mind.
Okay.
And that's great. But they're leaving out the biggest part of that, which is the nutrition, the diet.
Okay.
But you have to be militant and singularly focused. And if you're overweight, and this is one of the things that I cater to, that I want to bring people in and work with them on, is the people who are 30 pounds overweight and who needs to lose the weight because medically they have to get healthy or they're going to die. Those are the individuals that I have a soft spot for, because they're relying on other people to tell them what to do. Okay? And if I can just get them and say, okay, here's what you need to do. We're going to use hypnosis to do this. We're going to use hypnosis to help your confidence in that. But you're going to follow this diet. You're going to eat this way and only this way. And that's it. And then after that, that's all you can do. See, the thing is like, it's like, who said it? Was it Dr. Baper? Fat does not make you fat.
Yeah, there's a big misconception.
Yeah,
when
it doesn't
comes
make
to
you
that.
fat. When we process a cow or we process a pig, we collect all the fat. Okay, and we render that fat down on the pork fat. We render it down to lard, pure lard. Now, if you did any studying on lard, pork lard has higher amino acids in it than cold water fish. It has more nutritional value than you can ever understand. The other thing that it does is that when you fry anything in pork lard, it will not absorb into the food. So if you take a quart of pork lard, pour it in a pan, and fry a potato or chicken or whatever in that lard, when you pour that lard back into that container, you might miss about 1/16 of an inch of pork lard.
Like it doesn't get
Because
absorbed by
it doesn't absorb. Whereas all of these seed oils and the Wesson oils and all that crap that they sell in the stores that are not good for you, that are destroyed by the high heat process that they go through, you can take a quarter of that, fry something in it, and you'll be lucky if you get half of it back in that container because it's absorbed into the food. And you're consuming that. And that's not good. That's not good at all. As a matter of fact, McDonald's, and you can look this up, McDonald's in the early 2000s, or late 19s, fried their French fries in beef tallow.
Oh, really? They didn't know that.
Okay, and that's why their French fries were so good. They weren't greasy. They were this, and because they fried it in beef tallow. Well, they switched that, and they no longer fry it in beef tallow, and they're frying it in a peanut oil or something like that. They're greasy. They don't taste the same. There was a big thing about it years ago when they switched. There's something wrong with McDonald's French fries, because they used to be famous for their French fries, and it's because of the beef tallow.
It was because of that. Now, I was reading on your website, and I came across something regarding how you started becoming passionate about hypnosis or hypnotism at the age of 17 when you were practicing martial arts.
Kickboxing. I was kickboxing.
So how did those two combine? Was it because of the same thing that you were maybe trying to better yourself at the sport, or?
Well, it was by happenstance. I was training one night, and my best friend at the time came up to watch me and help me train, and he brought a friend of his. His name was Davis, and Davis was older. He had gone to college and that, and he was a psychologist. So Davis came up, and I knew Davis. I didn't know him well, but because it was small town and everybody knows everybody. So after I got through training, Davis came up to me and says, "You know what?" He said, "You ought to let me hypnotize you." And I looked at him like, "What do you mean hypnosis? Hypnotizing for what?" He goes, "It'll help you." And I said, "Okay." If somebody could have come up to me and said, "Look, if you wear a dead chicken around your neck for a week, it'll help you," I would have worn it. Okay? But I said, "Okay." So I remember going to his house, and he would hypnotize me, and he would take pins and he would stick in me and that I didn't feel, and he would give me these two words and take me through all of this stuff here. And he literally had me to the point to where when I heard the bell go off for the beginning of a fight, I would go into that zone. I would go into that hypnotic state. And I don't remember anything from the time that bell rang to the time the fight was over, whether I knocked the person out or the bell rang to end the fight or whatever. To this day, I don't remember any of my fights. And I remember because at the time in Dallas, the kickboxing it was just starting, and it was a small community of people. So we knew a lot of the people that we were competing against. We had met them or trained with them at one night at a studio or that. And I remember one of the guys came up to me. He goes, after the fight, he goes, "Man," he goes, "what?" He says, "Are you on something or what?" I go, "No." He goes, "Man," he said, "that bell went off," and he said, "You just glassed over." He goes, "You scared the hell out of me." He said, "I hit you with everything I had, and you just kept coming." I go, "I don't remember any of it." So that's how I got introduced to hypnosis, and it kind of set me off to wanting to learn more about the mind.
Okay.
So I started over the years, I started going to different seminars, motivational seminars, NLP, Tony Robbins seminars. I've been to multitudes of those, and it was just all in the mind, learning about eye movement and personalities and stuff like that. And in 1999, 98, I moved back to Los Angeles, went through a divorce, and then moved back there. I was going to take over my dad's construction company. And I woke up one morning, I was in an apartment there in the San Fernando Valley, opened up the paper, and it had a big 2-page ad on Sunday. It said, "Learn how to hypnotize free." And it gave this information, and I go, "Cool." And it gave the phone number. So Monday, I called the phone number, and they made an appointment for me to come down there. And the school was literally 20 minutes from where I lived at that point. So I went down there, enrolled in their class. It was free for 2 weeks, and they showed you how to hypnotize people and what it could do and dot. And it turned out that was at that time, the only accredited school for hypnosis in the country. So after the 2-week period, they said, "Well, this is what we do, and here's how we do it. Would you like to?" And I go, "Absolutely." And I enrolled into the school and went to the school for 2 years, with having no interest or wherewithal whatsoever of turning it into a business. It was just something that I wanted to learn. Now, I did work with some of my friends who were kickboxers and athletes in the martial arts community and that, but other than that, I didn't do anything with it. And got through with it, and then opened up my own construction company because I had a falling out with the family and that type of thing. Hypnosis was on the back burner. And then along about 2006, 7, somewhere around in there, decided to leave Los Angeles. I picked up my wife here in California, and then we started traveling. And I became an insurance adjuster, a catastrophe insurance adjuster. And I would deal with places, got hit by a hurricane or tornadoes or floods or that type of thing. So we took the RV and we'd go to that area and we'd stay for a while, and then we were done and we'd go, "Okay, what are we going to do now?" And I go, "Hypnosis." So I started promoting myself and going to these like the Knights of Columbus and different organizations, and I would do the comedy hypnosis shows for their charity events, and I'd make a couple of bucks. But afterward, people would come up to me and say, "Well, that was really funny, but can you help me with blah, 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 blah?" I go, "Sure." And so I started developing clients. And then we ended up down in Florida, and we started a little bit more, and then we left Florida, and then we ended up back down here in Texas, came down to this area for my wife's family, had never been down here before. The furthest I ever been south as a kid was Galveston. That was it. So we ended up down here, and in Mission, we opened up a small office for hypnosis and was very busy. And
Here in Mission, Texas?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. And then a hurricane would hit, and we'd shut it down, and we'd take off and do claims and that, and we'd come back, and so that's how I started out. And then probably back in 2013 is when I really said, let me spend more time on hypnosis, and started developing clients in that, and I've been doing it ever since.
Okay, so it's been give or take like over a decade.
Oh,
that
yeah.
You've been consistent at it.
Yeah.
That's great. How would you explain hypnosis to maybe like a a 12, 13-year-old, someone that has no idea, or like if you had to simplify it, just put it on the easiest terms, how would you explain what it consists of to someone that age?
Hypnosis is a natural state that everybody goes into. The average person goes in and out of hypnosis every day, anywhere from 5 to 7 times a day.
Okay.
It's a natural state. If you've ever driven from point A to point B and gotten to point B and you go, wow, did I stop at that stop sign? Well, you were in a form of hypnosis. It's called highway hypnosis. If you've ever watched a movie or played a video game and you get so engrossed in it and somebody comes in and sets something down next to you and that you asked for a glass of water earlier and that, and then you lean over your shoulder and say, hey, can you bring me my water? And they go, well, I brought it to you. It's sitting right there. It's like, well, you were in hypnosis. So it's a heightened state of focus is all that it is. Now, from the time that we're born until we hit 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around in there, kids are in a constant state of hypnosis. And what I mean by that is this, is that their subconscious mind is open for imprints. And those imprints it has to be that way because we have to learn very quickly survival skills, language skills, math skills. We have to develop, touch this and don't touch that and this and climb that and you get down and you're going to hurt yourself because we don't have a yardstick to measure it by. So we're gathering all this information and it's little pieces of stuff. And then as we get closer to 10, 11, 12 years old, all of a sudden that veil of consciousness comes down, the conscious veil. And that starts coming down, and that becomes the filter to protect the subconscious mind from imprints. And that's it. Because once that filter comes down, all the stuff that you need to make decisions going forward and into your adulthood and this was all put there by the time that you hit 10, 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
Now, good, bad, or indifferent. If it's good stuff, that's great. If it's bad stuff, that's too bad. It is what it is. Now, the only way that you can change that are 3 ways. You can either experience trauma, sudden trauma, that will raise that veil immediately. It'll open up the subconscious mind and you'll start getting imprints again. And that, for example, if you're walking down the street and you're just thinking about what you're going to do today and this and your girlfriend or whatever the case may be, and around the corner comes a big dog.
Okay.
And that big dog looks at you and you stop and you go real quick thinking, what am I going to do with that? Is it going to bite? Is it this? Should I pet it? Should I say here? What? And the next thing you know, that dog attacks you.
Okay.
That's trauma. Now, depending on the individual, and everybody's different, you may look at a dog from that point forward and freak out and you'll never go around a dog again. Because the dog bites, see dog bite, bad. Or it may be, yeah, that dog attacked me, I'll get a stick and beat it, maybe I should learn to climb the tree. Or it's like, not a big deal. So depending on the individual is how that trauma affects you. Okay? The other way is stress. If you experience stress on an ongoing basis, that can raise the conscious veil and cause imprints for a variety of different reasons or different ways. And the third way is through hypnosis. And hypnosis is on purpose stress, meaning that you're dealing with a hypnotist that is artificially raising that veil, and they're going to make some changes or modifications within your programming. Because everything that you have, that you are, is the natural you. Meaning that you wake up in the morning and you just start and you don't self-reflect. You're just going on autopilot and you're thinking about doing this and doing that, and this and that. And it's on autopilot. And you don't realize it. And people say, and depending on your personality and how all of that comes in, how do you react to your relationships? How do you this? How do you get better relationships? Or are you bad at relationships? All these things. And all of that comes from the information that was put in place between the time you were born and 10, 11, 12 years old.
Okay, so by the way you're explaining things, it may be easier as an adult to go that third route because like there's no way for you to force the other ones. So, like they just happen randomly.
Exactly.
right? But hypnosis, if you're, what's the word for that? Intentional. If you're intentional about it, then you can open that veil and modify things.
That's why I say it's on purpose. You're doing it with a purpose. You're doing it with intent. And when it happens artificial, or when it happens naturally, whether it's through trauma or stress, that's not planned. You're at the whims of however you're reacting and this and that type of thing. So it's the hypnosis is the only way to do it with purpose. Okay. Now, once you do that, and once you go through the process of being hypnotized, you can then utilize self-hypnosis in the future because your subconscious mind is already conditioned to go into hypnosis.
Okay.
And you can go in there and you can make change. You can take that tool yourself and make any changes or modifications that you choose to make at that point. But you're getting rid of all the crap that you no longer need. You've been through it, you've learned from it. Yeah, the lessons are there. Now it's time to let it go. Because it has no value. Because from this point right here, this second back is history. It's everything that we've experienced, but from the time I walked in here and the time I sat down, is in the stone, written in the stone tablet of time. It's in history. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
You can learn from it, but God in his infinite wisdom put our eyes in front of our head and not the back for a reason, and that's to look forward. And you look forward and you go forward, but you have to have a plan. Because if you're going forward day after day after day, and you're doing the same thing over and over and over, but you expect different results,
I heard it. Definition of insanity.
Yeah, that's a definition of insanity. You're going to frustrate yourself, and you're not going to be happy with yourself. People were meant to grow. And the example I use with people is a rubber band. And I'll hand a person a rubber band, and I said, what's the purpose of the rubber band? Well, to hold things together. I said, absolutely. But how does it hold stuff together? How do you just put it around it and it just holds it? No, it's got to be stretched. So a rubber band's function is, it does not meet its function until it's stretched. People are the same exact way. People do not meet their function until they're stretched. The difference between a person and a rubber band is a rubber band, when you pull it off, it'll go back to the original size. A person, when you stretch them, they never go back to the original size. And that's called growth. And as soon as they experience growth, they can experience more growth. It's like a journey. You can get as far as you can see, walk as far as you can see, and once you get there, you can see further. And once you walk as far as you can see, and then you can see further. That's called progress. And that's where we have to be. And people are stuck. It's like when I was a sales manager, I would hire salespeople, and they would come in and go, well, I've got 10 years experience in sales. I said, really? Okay. How many books have you read? How many seminars have you been to? How much training have you done as a salesperson? I don't know. I've done a little bit. Okay, so are you a person that's got 1 year's experience repeated 10 times? Or do you actually have 10 years experience? Because 1 year should build on the next year and the next year and the next. It's called growth. It's called becoming a professional, what you are doing, a master. What would Bruce Lee say? He says, I don't fear the person that does 10,000 kicks. He says, I fear the person who does one kick 10,000 times. They become a master at that one thing. And that's the person who's dangerous.
That's really important. I mean, it's a really valuable information, and especially when you combine them together, it's something that we don't quite often see. I mean, there's a lot of, nowadays, I've seen the carnivore community growing as time has been passing by. I do recall I starting like just reading books and like studying, the carnivore diet, keto diet, and some other diets, give or take 4, 5, 6 years ago. If anything, if I do recall going back, could have been 6 years. There hasn't been much content or stuff to look at. In reality, there's not even a lot of channels nowadays. Even if you were to mention one of the most famous people and advocating for it, most people don't even know who that is.
No. No.
So it's something quite uncommon, but it's pretty interesting that you're bringing those two good things together.
Well, you know what? The thing is even if a person starts carnivore, they can fail at carnivore. And they can fail by not sticking to it. And they don't stick to it because they haven't changed the 6 inches up between their ears to give them that edge to stick to it. Okay? Now, if you take 100 people and they all start carnivore, you at the end of 6 months, you might have 10 or 15 of them left. The rest of them are going to find a reason. Well, it's too busy. It's too expensive. I didn't this. I got to eat more. Excuse after excuse after excuse. But when it comes down to it, the reason that a lot of times that people fail is because they haven't changed this. It's like a smoker. Most smokers have stopped smoking for a period of time at one time or another, and then they end up going back. Well, they haven't changed this. They were just a person who didn't smoke for 6 months. It's like a woman who gets pregnant. She's a smoker before she gets pregnant. She goes, oh, I'm pregnant. I'm not smoking anymore. And 9 months, she's not smoked. She has the baby. She comes out, and first thing she does is lights up.
It's more of a kind of like a choice opposed to a decision. So they haven't made a decision.
Well, it's
They're
not. No,
just
it's not even
choosing.
that. It's just it's a part of who they are. They haven't changed this up here. They put it on pause. But when you go through the process of hypnosis, for example, with the stop smoking, I have a 97% success rate with smokers. Okay. Now, there's a reason for that. I interview people, I weed them out, so I don't take some of them because they're not ready for it. But when they go through the process and they change this up here, and they have the programming, and the subconscious mind accepts that programming, that they are no longer a smoker, they are a non-smoker, then the smoking is not even a consideration. It's just like food. It's like what is a food that you do not like and that you would never even consider eating?
For me, it's gonna be a crazy one. It's beans.
Beans.
I have never since my mom was pregnant. And
Okay.
most people don't even believe me because I'm Mexican.
There you go. So beans. So the fact is that you eat, but you don't. You're just not going to eat. You're not going to eat beans. Now, what is a food that you absolutely enjoy? That if it was set in front of you, you would beat anybody to it, and that's what you're going to eat. What would that be?
I would say it's a cut of meat. It's just a ribeye. I'm simple.
Okay.
I
What
love
about
ribeye.
desserts?
That's a tough one. I would say ice cream.
Okay, so let's say that you have ice cream right now, and you have it every day.
Okay.
Okay, and you say, you know what? I need to quit eating this ice cream. I've got to get rid of this stuff. It's good, but I'm gaining weight, and I got to get rid of it. So you come to me and say, hey, look, I eat too much ice cream. I get rid of it. So I say, okay. So through my process, I discovered that beans are not something that you're going to eat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put you into hypnosis, and I'm going to make a connection between the ice cream and the beans. And I'm going to put a post-hypnotic suggestion in your subconscious mind that every time that you see ice cream, you're going to smell beans. And every time that you get ready to take a bite of the ice cream and you put it in your mouth, the taste that you're going to get is beans. And the subconscious mind is going to replace that. And pretty soon, you're not going to eat ice cream again.
And in order for that to occur, does a person has to cooperate, or it's something you do on your own? Or
No, they have to
what is-
agree. They have to agree
have to
because
agree.
all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, meaning that I don't do anything. I don't do anything to people. I lead them into the process.
Okay.
Okay, I create the opportunity and the environment for them to go easily into hypnosis, but they have to agree to it.
Okay.
If they sit down with me and they go, you know what, I'm here. My wife told me I need to do this, so I thought I'd come over and sit down with you and try to do this. And at that point, I go, we're done. See you later. Not going to happen. Come back when you want to do it. Because if you don't want to do it, if you don't have that desire to change something, then
It's not gonna
it's
happen.
not going to happen. As long as you give me a little bit of desire, and if you're willing to follow a few instructions, then I'll take it from there. I can handle it from there. But I've got to have that desire from you. It's just like if I sit here and you know what a lemon tastes like, right?
A what?
A lemon?
Lemon? Yes, of course.
Yeah. So if you were to close your eyes, go ahead and just close your eyes for a second. So if you close your eyes and I ask you to picture a lemon in your mind's eye, could you see that lemon in your mind's eye? Can you get a picture of that?
Yes.
You got
yes,
that?
I can.
Perfect. I want you to imagine that I'm going to reach up and snatch that out of your mind's eye, and I'm going to hold it, that lemon, between the thumb and the forefinger of my hand. And I've got it right between there. And I'm showing it to you, and I give it a little squeeze, and then I take a knife and I slice that lemon. And you can see all the oils jumping off of that skin of that lemon into the air. And then all of a sudden you start to get a slight aroma of a lemony smell in the air. And I take that knife and I slice it again, and then that juice starts running out those two slices, those two cuts, and down onto that knife. And it's a very juicy lemon. So I pull that wedge out of that lemon. I set the thing down, and I've got the little wedge there, much like you'd see if you go in a restaurant and they give you iced tea, and you got a little wedge of lemon there. And I just squeeze it a little bit. And I'm going to ask you to take that wedge from me. And as you take it from me, I want you to imagine that you've got it in your hand now, and you're going to start bringing it to your mouth. And you're going to start bringing it to your mouth. And as a matter of fact, as you get closer, you can actually start smelling that lemon. And then you stick your tongue out, and you're going to touch your tongue to that lemon. And you may even find your jaw starts tightening up, and you start salivating. You may even have to swallow a little bit because you start salivating. And as you get closer and closer, and your tongue comes out, and it's getting ready to touch, and you know that as soon as your tongue touches that lemon, it's going to explode. That tartness is going to explode in your mouth. And just give it one little squeeze, and you get more smell. And then finally your tongue touches that lemon. And now open your eyes. That experience has nothing to do with hypnosis. That experience has everything to do with the power of your mind, because it's something that you've experienced before, and therefore your mind can bring back all of the tactile and aromas and everything. The body starts reacting because it's a known process that you've been through before. And it's no different than you going on a vacation and you having a wonderful time on vacation. You come home and you want to tell your best friend, says, I have got to tell you about this. Man, you set them down there and you're telling them about the water and this and that. And pretty soon they're saying they can actually feel the breeze and all of that. They go, oh my God, I have to go there. I want to go there.
Yes,
because you have that connection with them. And as you're telling them that, you're reliving that experience.
Yes.
And maybe one night you go into the bathroom and you've got the tub filled up halfway with water and the temperature is just perfect, and you put your foot in there and you all of a sudden, gosh, this feels just like that water at that beach. I need to go back there. So that experience, that being in that water just triggered that experience. And that's the power of the subconscious mind.
That's really interesting. I never like tried an exercise like that, but you're right. I mean, it's all stored in there.
It's there. Now, understand this, that's just an experience. The experience of the vacation is a good experience. Now think about the bad experiences that people go through. The childhoods, the abuse, and all of those things the young kids go through. And it becomes an imprint. And then we wonder why they are the way that they are when they get older. It's because of the imprints. And the only way for those things to change is to get reprogrammed with them. But they have to have that desire. They have to have the opportunity. Okay? There's what they call the primitive mind, and it's a process called the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. Okay? And we see animals do it all the time. We experience it at the same time. That's why it's called the primitive mind. And you can watch it on TV, on the news. If you turn on the news and some guy is running from the cops, in his car, and the cops are behind him. They've got the bear in the air, and they're looking in this, and you're sitting at home going, why is he running? He's going to get caught. Well, that flee mechanism was tripped and took off. Now, why did he do that? Don't know, not yet. So the cops chase him, they put the spike strips out, the roll car, whatever, they catch the guy, they pull him out, and he's asking, well, why were you running? Well, I got scared. And when a person hits that flight mechanism, it's not an issue of being logical. It's the primitive mind. And this is what we have to deal with. And this is what, us as a society, we have to look at, that we don't want to get people to that point to where we trip that primitive mind, because once it's tripped, all bets are off at that point. All bets are off. Because they're going to have to go through that process and to write it out, and they're going to have to be controlled and brought back down. And kids are the same exact way. When they're at home, or you take their Game Boy away, or you take their video game away because they've been bad at school and they freak out, that's the same primitive mind mechanism, because they've gotten too emotionally attached to those things, and now you've taken it away.
And now I can imagine how hard it is to erase those thoughts, or, for example, with food, right? Right now you're mentioning the bad experiences, but what about good experiences that they think they're good, but in reality they're bad? You know, like that kid eating cookies or ice cream, and they see it as something good, which in reality is leading to something bad. So I'm pretty sure that's even harder, especially because they have it associated with something positive, when in reality it's something bad, and they probably don't really want to get rid of that thought or that.
Again, that's where we have to take responsibility for ourselves and become militant in what we want to achieve. See, there's a thing called pain or pleasure, and pain or pleasure is real simple. It's whichever's bigger wins. For example, let's say that you want to get healthy, and you want to lose 50 pounds. That's the pleasure. Now, the pain is what you have to go through in order to do that. The pain is you can't eat the cookies, you can't do this, you have to modify your diet, you have to this. And now all of a sudden, the pain becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden, that pain outstrips the pleasure, that you say, no, that pleasure is not worth going through all of this over. And you stop. So what is the key? The key is to build the pleasure up, to increase that pleasure, the perception of the pleasure, bigger than what the pain is. And if you do that, you'll accomplish what you want. That's why I say you have to become militant sometimes in what you do, the why. You have to build that why up. You have to understand the why. You have to become emotionally attached to that why. If you don't do this, you're going to die. You're going to leave behind children. You're going to leave behind your wife. You're doing that's building that up. I want to stay around. I've got to be around. I've got to be around. So it's a pain or the pleasure. And then you have to change your perception, because a person's perception is their reality. Your perception of whatever it is that you think about is your reality. I have my own perception. It's reality. If I walk outside and I go, look, that sky is blue, and you go, that's green. But if that's your perception, then I have to go with that. I can't sit there and argue with you. Say, no, that's blue. And you say, no, that's green. And now all of a sudden you have an emotional attachment to you know what, I'm right. It's green. But if I come to you and say, you know what, look at this blue, look at this picture here, look at that blue water. And look at this over here, and look at that blue and that. And then all of a sudden you look at it and you go, that's blue. Now, did I force you to change? No, you came to that conclusion yourself because of information, education. And that's what we have to do with people. We have to educate them. We have to lead them.
Now, are you, I was also reading that you started a group. It's a group, right? Pounds Away weight loss group. Are you incorporating this other aspect of
Yes.
Hypnosis into
Yes.
it?
As a matter of fact, the Pounds Away weight loss group is a program that I'm still working on it, and I'm modifying it, and I'm packaging it, And the goal is to have the group online to where it's a weekly meeting online
Okay.
to where people can come, we'll educate them about the carnivore diet, the pros and the cons, expose them to different doctors, blood work, we talk about, so it's once a week, hour and a half a week. And then at the end of each meeting, we'll do a session of group hypnosis
Okay.
for different subject matters. So each week they'll go into hypnosis. Now, before they can become a part of the group, they have to go through an introductory process to where I take them, and it could be I could have 2 people, 3 people, or 5 people, no more than 6. But I take them through the process of an extended hypnosis session to get them conditioned for hypnosis.
Okay.
So that way, when they go into the group, everybody's on the same page, and I can put them into hypnosis very quickly. And I'm not wasting a lot of time doing it with new people and that. So that's why the difference. But the pounds of weight loss group is I'm trying to get that going. It'll be a paid thing, probably $60 a month or something like that. All right, because I feel that you have to have skin in the game. If you give it away free, it's going to be treated. You're not going to value it.
Yeah, they're not going to be accountable.
Yeah,
for it.
so I want to make it very cost effective for somebody that, because to meet with me individually, I'm not inexpensive. I mean, I'm not inexpensive. I get results, but I'm not inexpensive. And I would just prefer to give people the opportunity to do that. Now, also, the Pounds Away is also a private program that I customize to people individually, to where I meet with them, and if that's what they want to do, then that's what that'll be available. But it all revolves around the carnivore diet.
That's great. Are there any like free resources or really accessible resources that you would recommend someone to go and study or learn from regarding the diet?
About the only thing that I can say is, and I, it's funny because my primary care doctor, when he saw me, he didn't see me for 6 months. And I walked in, he looked at me and goes, "Holy moly, what would you do?" So we spent almost an hour in his office, and I put him behind schedule, but he was learning about the carnivore diet. He gave me his email, and I started emailing him videos and say, "Hey, watch these first. Watch this one next. Watch this." And he started educating himself. So what I do with people that are interested is I have a standard email that's got 4 different videos on it, and I just cut and paste, put it in the email, say, "There you go. Watch the video." Now, if they watch it, they'll come back to me and go, "Okay, what do I do next?" If they don't, then I know they haven't watched it and they're not being responsible for themselves. They have to put in that little effort, because I'll talk to some people and I say, "Well, did you watch those videos?" "No, I haven't this and that." I said, "Okay, all right."
That's great. And now, what are the most common myths that you encounter or that people try to like rebuttal when it comes to the diet? Fiber, cholesterol. What is that? What have you noticed that most people like try to like bring up right away to stay on a regular diet?
I would venture to say from the people that I've talked to, it would probably be the cholesterol issue. And, I didn't know a lot about blood work or that. I went in and you do blood work and the doctor says, "Okay, this is you," and you look at it and it's like, okay, whatever. But one of the things I did is when I went down this rabbit hole is I made a decision to start learning about my blood work. And I ordered that book from Dr. Berry on how to read your blood work and what you wanted. And I learned about my blood work. As a matter of fact, I had an appointment with my cardiologist. What was it? Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Now, I quit all of my medication by the end of September because my blood pressure stabilized. I started learning a little bit about this medication. I just quit. So by the time I went back in to see him yesterday, I was down to 85 pounds. And I told him, I said, the nurse asked me, said, "Okay, what's your medication?" I said, "I don't take that anymore. I haven't since the end of September. And she looked at me and goes, you're kidding. I said, no, why would I? I said, I've lost the weight. I'm this and that, that, that. So the doctor comes in. He did not even ask me about my diet. He didn't even make a comment on the weight that I lost until I mentioned it to him and says, well, as you can see, I've lost. He goes, yeah, it's very commendable, and a lot of people don't do that. And that's all he said. And then he got down to his, and he got his pencil out and he started talking to me about, taking the blood pressure medication. And I'm looking, and I just did this. He goes, what? I said, not going to happen. I ain't taking it. Not taking it. There's no need in it. He goes, well, I said, no. I said, unless you point me to a study and give me a copy of the study and let me read it, I ain't taking it. Because I've done my due diligence. I've done my reading. He goes, okay. I said, I'm not going to push you. I said, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So he said, okay, I'll see you in 6 months.
I went through something similar. I had the gastritis for the longest time, and I had ulcers. They did the, what is it called, the endoscopy, the one they do through over here at the top. And it was just a cycle, just taking medications, and like it never went away until I started doing research, reading more, eliminating. I started trying to pinpoint what it was, and that's how I came across this diet. So this diet, I mean, I see it as it's an elimination diet at the end of the day. You're just eliminating all the garbage that like we don't need. If anything, the body does create its own glucose, so we don't really need additional external sugar or glucose or none of that. We don't need it.
No.
Like the body will create it on its own.
Well, you know what? It's like this. It's like our cows. We have cows. I have yet to have any of the cows come to the fence line and ask for a pizza. They eat grass. And that's all they eat. They don't get upset or that, hey, where's the variety? They eat grass. That's what their stomachs do. They've got 3 stomachs. They break it down or that. And look, you give them enough of that good grass, by the time I get ready to process and put it in the freezer, there's some good meat there. So I'm eating good grass. Okay? I'm getting the benefits of them eating good grass. So people, I think it's just gotten too weird with the food to where we have to have, it has to be an experience all the time. You eat to support life. That's it. That's what you should be eating for. It's not, look, if you want a celebration, everyone, that's great. But don't do it every day. Eat what my bowel movements went from 2 a day down to maybe 1 every 2 days. Because the body's using everything that you're putting into it. There's no waste.
And I'm glad you're mentioning that, because I've talked to people like that, and they're like, oh, I'm constipated. I'm not going to a restaurant. I'm like, what do you mean? You're not eating the garbage. So therefore, there's nothing
there.
There's nothing there. Your body's absorbing most of it. I'm like, don't worry about it. You're just going to go when you have to go. And don't even worry about it. I mean, for me, it's been work like a charm, to be honest with you. So for me, I already know, like, I'm not going back. I'm not really going back. Like, I know the benefits. I know how I feel. I know the mental clarity. Like, everything's there. You can see, you can feel it. Inflammation goes away. Everything.
And the fasting has been an interesting thing. We do the intermittent fasting, and we normally don't eat until. Sometimes we'll eat early, but for the most part, we don't eat until about noon, and then we don't eat after 5 o'clock.
What about? Are you incorporating coffee, black coffee, or no?
We have coffee. I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and I put heavy cream in it, and I use the Trivia, the natural sweetener Trivia.
Okay.
It's a plant-based sweetener.
Okay.
And that's what we use. And I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and that's about my limit.
That's great. Yeah, for us, it's almost about the same. Like, we don't, we only eat in the morning when there's some days where we're like, we worked out or whatever, and then we're like hungry in the morning. but we go for eggs and bacon or egg and some meat.
Right.
But and we're really careful with the bacon because nowadays all products have even meat. It comes with sugar. You
I
have to
know.
read the labels, and we have to be looking for the one that's only like the less ingredients are better. Just
Yeah.
meat, and we're okay with stuff like spices, vinegar,
Right.
or just salt. Like salt is good, by the way. I mean, salt. We like salt. We salt everything, so we're not. There's people that don't want to put salt on
And,
food.
that's the craziest thing because the body needs salt. I mean, when I was a kid in junior high, I'd play football, and I remember going into the locker rooms, and they would have the little containers there, and they'd have salt pills in them. And the coaches would say, "Get your salt pill, get your salt tablet, get your salt tablet," and we'd suck on the salt tablets to replenish our salt. And it's like, I don't know, mid '80s or whatever, and all of a sudden, no, you can't do that. That's not good for you. And it's but your body needs salt, and it's kind of weird because I mean, even when we first started, we would sit down, we'd each have a steak, and literally we'd get 2 or 3 bites into it, and we're full. And we'd take that leftover steak and we'd put it in the refrigerator, and that's what we'd had for lunch the next day. But we couldn't finish. We were satiated because the body was just processing everything that we already had. Lord knows I had plenty of it, but it was just eating. Got into that ketosis stage, and it was just the body was feeding on itself, and that was the way that it was. And it just, And I've done three different 3-day fast, water only fast, and my next goal is to do 5 days because I got through the 3 days really easy.
Yeah, I think we're around the same time frame. The longest I've been able to fast is 3 days.
Yeah.
My wife only 1 day, and then she's like, "No, I'm starving." And then I'm like, "Let's do it. Let's go for 3." And then but that's a maximum. She's like, "No, I want to eat already. I'm ready. I want to have a steak." Now, what about? I wanted to ask you about some other benefits. Because, well, I mean, for me, just like you mentioned, you wanted to know about your blood work and stuff like that. When I recall when I started on this diet, I was like, okay, I want to do 40 days, and then I want to go ahead and get blood work. And the only downfall was that I had never like done blood work in the past, so there's really no way for me to measure or know. But one thing I noticed is when I got the results and everything, I never told the doctor anything. So I was just pretending like if I was, just going for the first time, right? When the results came, they were looking at everything, like, hormones and all that. And because I also wanted to get the tested for the testosterone, right? And she was like, "Oh, this is like off the charts. Like this is something that we hardly see." It was like around 900 and something. And she was like, "Are you taking anything?" I'm like, "No, I mean," and in my mind I knew like I'm just eating meat and I'm just eating eggs and I'm eating cholesterol because I mean that's pretty much what I was eating. I was eating 5 eggs in the morning, 1 pound of meat like at noon, and that's it. And like if I was hungry at night, I would probably have leftovers if for any reason there was any left for that same day. And I did that for 40 days, and she was like, "No, this is impressive. Like, we hardly see this here in the valley." I'm like, "Okay." I at that time, I wasn't even like sure or aware as far as the measurements. But when I saw it, I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty good." And I wasn't taking anything else, just the meat, just the diet. So have you experienced results like that with other people that maybe they're having issues with hormones or?
I haven't really been doing it long enough to get the results from other people on their blood tests yet, but my own results, 3 years ago, my testosterone was sitting at like 175.
That's prior to like doing any
Yeah,
of it.
prior to doing anything. So I went to my primary care doctor referred me out to a endocrinologist, a hormone doctor. He looked at it and says, "Yeah, we got to get you on testosterone." So I started doing the testosterone injections.
Like the TRT? Okay.
The injections. And my testosterone went up to 2 something Still wasn't impressed. It still wasn't, where it needed to be. And he upped the dosage and dot, 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 dot. And I did that for a while. It had no effect on me at all in terms of the way I felt or anything. This last blood test that I had, which was last week, and I looked at the results last night, on the carnivore diet, my testosterone, it was sitting at 595 with no injections. Because I hadn't taken the injections for months.
That's great, because they say that once you start taking artificial testosterone, then your body will shut down and it won't produce it. But I think it's all a myth. Like the body's pretty smart, and I'm pretty sure
Yeah, with hormones you have to be, they've got synthetic hormones and then they've got bioidentical hormones. Okay, and the bioidentical hormones, a lot of pharmaceutical companies don't like because they're natural hormones. And they can't put a patent on them. So if they take the synthetic hormone and they tweak it in a molecule a certain way, they can put a patent on it. But that little tweak does not operate within the body the same way as natural or bioidenticals do. And that's the challenge with the pharmaceutical industry is it's a profit thing. Now look, I understand it's profit. You got to have to, you do all this research and all that. You want a return on your investment. You got shareholders in it. That's great. But at some point in time, it's like, at what cost? You want to, I understand you want the, but at what cost? And that's a question that I ask myself when I do sessions with people. When they come to me and they want, what they want to do, there's some things that I just won't do with people in hypnosis because I know that I'm going to cause more problems in the end than what I'm solving. So I have to be very careful with that. And that's a question I ask them. I can do this, but at what cost? And that kind of keeps me centered.
Yes, and one thing I like about the diet is the less is better. Like, you don't have to really worry about cooking extra stuff or like having to deal with all, because I've tried other diets, and don't get me wrong, like you have to be measuring and doing all this and that. And here it's different because you just eat until you're full. Like there's really no limit. And one thing I like about eating like just meat is you get satiated and that's it. Like you're not gonna keep on eating. Like if you were to grab a bag of chips, you can eat and eat and eat, and there's no end. There's really no end.
Well, there's an end because your hand's gonna waddle around in the bottom of that bag and there's not gonna be anything left. So, but you know what? The interesting thing is like I said, we process our own cow. So when we process a cow, we have the whole cow.
Okay.
And we have different cuts in that. We've got the great cuts, and then there's some cuts in there that are not so great. And those goes into the freezer, and then we get down to the bottom of that. There's some cuts of meat that are kind of tough. So I've had to learn how to cook those things, whether it be in a pressure cooker to tenderize them, and then that, which I'm not real thrilled with, but I discovered a process called sous vide.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, never heard
But
of
what the
it.
sous vide you put the meat in a vacuum packed bag, and you put it in a vat of water, and it's got this machine that you set the temperature with. It's like a big curling iron. It sets down in that water, and it circulates the water, and you set the temperature, and we'll put those tough cuts of meat in that, and I'll cook them for 24, 26 hours at 129 degree temperature.
Okay.
And by the time it comes out of there, you can cut it with a fork. And that's how we eat the tougher cuts of meat. They're flavorful, but if you didn't cook them like that, you're going to chew for a long time trying to get that thing broken up.
I heard of that term.
Oh, it's
before.
great. Yeah, it's great. It's great. You can cook fish that way and chicken and that. It's very tender. It's very flavorful. Because it's cooking itself in all its own juices, and then we make our own beef jerky. We'll take some of the roast and slice it and marinate it and make beef jerky, and that's what we'll put it in the refrigerator.
It's probably great for snacks.
Oh,
I mean, when it comes for us, we haven't gotten that far, to be honest with you. Like when it comes to beef jerky,
Yeah.
I used to have one of those. What are they called? The air fryers. And I used to I abused that thing for the longest time until it gave out, and I haven't bought another one. I'm probably gonna go buy another one.
Well,
but I use that thing for.
I got a used dehydrator,
Okay.
and then a used meat slicer, because I was cutting it by hand, and I just slice it and marinate it for 24 hours, and then put it in that dehydrator, and I just cycle it through, and I'll make, I probably run at any given time about 12 pounds of meat through there. By the time I'm done with that, I'll have 4 or 5 pounds maybe of.
And there's a lot of recipes nowadays. I mean, we were trying to like look for tortillas, like how to make tortillas, right? And there's one with the pork rinds, just nothing but pork rinds, and I think you put a cream and an egg, and that's it. You have the batter, and I mean they're pretty tasty.
Oh,
I mean, they're
well,
pretty
that's how
good.
we do our fried chicken. That's what we do with pork rinds. We chop up the pork rinds in a food processor, and then dredge the chicken in some eggs, and then coat them up and put them in the oven. And I would defy anybody to say that that you're not eating fried chicken.
So what about spices? Are you okay with spices? Which ones are allowed?
So I'm good with spices. They don't affect me, in a bad way. I mean, we have our Kinder's spices that we put on the steaks and that.
Would you maybe recommend to just stick to the basic, like salt, pepper, and
That's
just
that's pretty much what we
not
do.
to use those that it's a combination of things, and you buy it there at the store, and they're already like pre-mixed because they do put sugar. Like
Oh, yeah,
I've
you
been
have to
reading
be
those, and
careful.
then sugar, brown sugar. They're at the very bottom. You can see it there.
Yeah,
So
you have to be real
so it's
careful
best
with
if you
that.
were to just have your what is it called? The spices separate, right? Now, are you maybe like, I know that you're doing a lot of things right now, but you have a lot of things going on right now, the consultations and the group and all that. Are you maybe working on another project, a book, anything else, or?
I've got a book in process, and I got through with it and was going to publish it, and then I pulled it because I wanted to make some changes, and it's been one of those works in progress.
Oh, okay.
But most of my time is spent consulting with people. I mean, this past month has just been. I've had people come out of the woodwork, and I'm doing consultation after consultation after consultation.
Are most of them local here? Like, have you seen, me personally, I've been trying to find people that are on this same path, carnivore here. I haven't been lucky, and I've been just asking everybody. Like everybody I meet, I tell them about the diet. I try to just like tell them my experience, right? And not enforce it, but I just tell them my experience. And for the most part, they're gonna see me weird.
Right.
What is this person talking about,
Right,
right?
right.
Even my sister, she was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I like your sister. She's a kick. Smart lady. Smart lady. You know what? I think it's one of those things where, it's becoming more and more prevalent, but I think a lot of people don't say anything just because they don't want to hear, anybody say anything bad or ridicule them or say, "Hey, you're nuts" or whatever. Me, I don't care. You can say whatever you want to me. I march to my own drum, type of thing, because I do the research. I tell people, if you're going to come argue with me about something, you better come loaded for bear, because I'm going to be educated about it. You're not going to be, and if I don't know anything about it, I'm going to tell you I don't know anything about it. But give me some time and I will. And you better come back with some good facts, because it's not going to be pleasant for you if you don't.
Now, I wanted to ask you a few kind of like uncommon, abnormal questions. So, if you could hypnotize any historical figure, who would it be? It could be maybe someone fictional or historical character that's no longer with us. Who would it be and why?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Now, who would that be? Marilyn Monroe. That would be an interesting mind to get inside of. I mean, historical figure. Einstein?
That's a tough one there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, those are great answers right there. What about imagine a world where everybody adopted this diet. Let's say that we're all carnivores, and like it starts getting more popular. It starts picking up in social media. More people are starting to realize the truth about the whole industry and everything, right? So everybody's trying to maybe have animals, raise animals, and everybody's at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be the biggest change in the world or society at least?
It would go to hell in a handbasket.
Do you think it would become more competitive?
I don't think that there would be enough product for people to raise, and it would become so expensive because everybody wants it, because it's capitalism. It's something that's not very many of is, and people want it. They're going to pay a lot for it. I don't think the government would allow it to get to that point because it's going to upset farming, the corn, the wheat, and all that. And the corn, a lot of the corn anyway produced in the country is used to feed animals. So I don't think that we would have the ability to do it.
It would never get to that point.
Couldn't, because you've got so many people concentrated in cities. What are they going to do with the cow? They can put it on the balcony of the high rise. You've got.
It would probably be a nightmare.
Well, and you know what? And that's the thing. Way back when, everybody had a piece of the property. I mean, you lived on the land. The land supported you. That's how you lived, and you raised your chickens. You raised or whatever, and you have something that I couldn't do. I would bring chickens over and say, "Look, I'll give you chickens if you give me this," and you barter with it. It's not going to be allowed now because the government doesn't want chickens. They want money. They want you to want money. They don't want you to need. They do not like people that don't need them. And they will do anything to keep that from happening. And it's shown that throughout, in the last 75 years, there's been good examples of that. You can take the I don't know if you remember, but the Branch Davidians in Waco, the commune with the preacher, where the FBI went in and the whole place caught on fire and killed all those people.
I'm unfamiliar.
Okay, it was David Koresh. I mean, those people were there. They had a compound. They weren't bothering anybody, and then all of a sudden, somebody said, "Well, the preacher out there is molesting children," and that's where it went down. They didn't want these people out there, and they didn't want them to succeed. I mean, they had their weapons, they had their gun. They weren't bothering anybody. But the government went in there and said, "We want you out," and they said no. And there you had it. They caused a big problem. I mean, a big problem. People died.
Now, another question. This is more related to the hypnosis itself, the sessions. Have you encountered any bizarre or unexpected reactions? I'm pretty sure you have, but can you maybe tell us, without saying names, of course, but
Right.
what has been something weird that you have experienced on a session?
You know what? I've seen a lot, I've experienced a lot. Nothing that happens surprises me. I've had people. I had a person I put into hypnosis, and he had some sort of reaction, and he had what is it? He went into convulsions in my office, in my magic chair. I mean, he just, and he said something going on, and I'm going, holy moly! What am I gonna? I mean, this man's going to die in my office, and I'm thinking, am I going to drag him out to the corner or what? To get him out of the house or what? I mean, that was an interesting thing. I work with children. Had one child that I'm fairly convinced that they were possessed by the way they reacted and how when they went into hypnosis and how they went through a transformation, a different voice and this. It was really interesting. I had people that spirits talk to them. They get connection to the spirit world. I mean, there's so much that we don't know. And see, the thing about hypnosis is it's all theory. If anybody ever tells you that they know exactly how hypnosis works and this, they're full of it because it's theory, because we don't. The fact is that we know that we do certain things. This is what happens most of the time. And it's just theory. So one person's explanation is just as good as another person's explanation because they don't know. And I don't get hung up on those things. All I know is that it works. And I've seen transformations in people very quickly. Sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 sessions, and then all of a sudden they transform. They come back. I had a lady today, a session that she had a breakup in a relationship, divorce, and that whole thing. And she came in, she's very angry, just very angry. And her face was she had an angry face. You could tell that she was just not happy. And she's had 3 sessions. She came in today, and completely different woman. And she talked about her ex, and it was, well, yeah, it's like you said, he's short term. He's going to be here. Before you bring up his name, it was, a sailor would blush with the words that came out of her mouth. So, I mean, there's transformations like that, and then people don't realize the effectiveness of it. So I had a client one time, and this was online. I worked with them online because they weren't in the area. And I took her through a process of that she was having bad dreams, or that, and she felt that the dreams there was evil. And she was probably right. But she had a thing on the peripheral there where she drank almost a 6-pack and a half of Cokes every day. Every day. And she goes, man, I got to quit this. I don't want to, I know it's bad. I said, yeah, it's not good for you. So during one of the sessions, we did the regular sessions, and then towards the end of the session, I said, from this point forward, you're not going to drink any Coke, and it's going to taste like this and this. As a matter of fact, if you have Coke in your refrigerator, you're not going to see it. Even though it's there, your subconscious mind is not going to allow you to see that Coke. And I just ended the session. The following week, I had a session with her, and I asked her how she's doing. She said, I'm doing good, and doing good. She goes, I haven't had a Coke since our last session. I said, really? I said, well, that's interesting. I said, you don't have any Coke in the house? And she goes, no, I don't have any. She goes, there's a 6-pack in the refrigerator, I think. And I said, what, you don't know? She goes, I haven't noticed them. I said, oh, okay. And I just left it at that. So the next session we had the next week, she came back, no Cokes. And I said, do you still have those Cokes in the refrigerator? She goes, I don't have any Coke in the refrigerator. Where'd you hear that? I said, well, we had a conversation. No, I don't have any Coke in the refrigerator. And she was on her phone. So I said, do me a favor. I said, go to your refrigerator and said, show me your inside of your refrigerator. She opened it up. Sure enough, there's a 6-pack of Coke in the back.
She couldn't see him.
She could not see them. She could not see them. Now, I didn't draw her attention to it. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, you're right, Otto. You don't have any Coke in your refrigerator. I said, yeah, I told you. So that's a process called hypnotic invisibility. And everybody experiences it. I mean, for example, you could go to the refrigerator, pull out something, set it down, and then you do your thing and turn around and you go, where's it at? Where I just had it here, and you're looking, you're going nuts on it, and 30 minutes later, it's sitting right there in front of you.
That's common.
That's it. That's called hypnotic invisibility. Now, that happens naturally, but I can, as a hypnotist, I can induce that and have done it on stage many times.
That's impressive. Now, where can people connect with you? I noticed that you have a YouTube channel. You've been posting consistently lately. Where can they find you?
They can go to my website, which is rmhypnosis.net.
Okay.
They can call me at 956-622-7989, which is my office number.
Okay.
They can go to my YouTube channel. They can do a search on Reflective Mind Hypnosis, they'll come up with it, or my name, Wayne Walker, they'll come up with it. The podcast that I'm doing is on Spotify and Apple, so they can do a search there. Come up my name, and they'll come up with it. The podcast what I'm trying to do is I'm marrying again the two, Hypnosis and the Carnivore, and bringing those two together. Because you know what, I was thinking about this today because I was preparing for this time, and it's almost like hypnosis is a natural process where you don't need drugs. You need this. This needs to be corrected. And as a matter of fact, a few years ago, my wife had a procedure done, and they were going to go in through the neck for something to do some sort of biopsy or whatever. She came to me and said that she didn't want to do the anesthesia. And she asked us, "Can you hypnotize me?" And I said, "Yeah." So I hypnotized her a couple of times, and then we went into the office and getting ready for the procedure. The nurse came out and says, "Okay, you need to come in. The anesthesiologist is going to get you prepared." And she goes, "Oh, no, I'm not doing anesthesia. My husband's hypnotized me." And the nurse looked at her and goes, "Excuse me?" She says, "Well, he's hypnotized. I don't need the anesthesia." And she goes, "I'll be right back." So she goes, it disappears for a few minutes, comes back out, and the doctor comes out. And he goes, "Okay, now explain to me what the deal is." And I told him, I said, "Look," I said, "I'm a hypnotist. I've conditioned my wife. She doesn't want to do the anesthesia. All I'm going to do is put her into hypnosis, put her in a hypnotic state. You can do your thing, and then you'll be done." He goes, "Are you sure? Because this is not a comfortable thing." That's one of them. He says, "Okay, so what do we do?" I said, "Well, just get me back there, let her there, and I'll put her in." So they took us back there. She laid down. I did my induction on her, dropped her in. It took me a few seconds, and she went out. And the doctor looks at me. He goes, "Is that it?" I said, "She's ready." He goes, "Okay. Go wait in the waiting room." So went out there. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, he comes back out. He goes, "Well, we're done. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She didn't do it." He said, "That's the damnedest thing I ever saw." I go, "Is there a problem?" He goes, "She's still out. What do we do?" I said, "Let me come back in." And I counted her up, and boom, eyes popped open. She goes, "Are we done?" I said, "You're done, sweetie." And we walked out there, and that doctor
That's
was
remarkable.
okay. So the mind is an amazing thing because look at this. When trauma happens to the body goes into shock. The shock is a form of hypnosis. It cuts off feelings to where you don't feel things. That's how amazing the body is. And that can be activated synthetically through hypnosis.
That's great.
It's really amazing.
That's great. Well, I really hope that people get to see you more. Once more, I'm gonna go ahead and share your socials. I know that you just mentioned right now the link to your website and whatnot, but I'll go ahead and just put it there on the video at the bottom on the comments, right? And yes, just feel free to send them a message. It was a pleasure having you here.
I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
It's been a really good conversation. Although I'm trying my best with my English is not the best. Trust me, if it was Spanish, we would probably have a different kind of conversation.
Yeah, it'd be non-existent because they go, "Excuse me, I'm not understanding you."
No, but thank you for the opportunity. I mean, for me, it's really a blessing to be able to practice. Most people see challenges and then they run away. But for me, this is an experience.
No, you did a great job. Trust me, you have nothing to worry about.
Thanks. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you like this episode, feel free to just share, give us a like. It is free. You can subscribe. It's also free. And thank you. We're good.